time for the Susan Taylor Podcast, where we discuss the yoga of mind, medicine, and healing. Author of Feeling Good Matters, Sexual Radiance, and the Vital Energy Program, Dr. Taylor imparts authentic knowledge and practical tools that inspire, educate, and empower us to be a healing force for positive change. So join us and take your life and our planet to the next level.
Hello and welcome to Episode 1, The Healing Force. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the yoga of mind, medicine, and healing, and why now healing is so needed, how we can use the healing force to turn things around, and what we can do personally to create the change needed for our own health and healing. We have some questions from the community, and what are best solutions for healing? I'm really looking forward to speaking on these great topics, so without further ado, let's get started. Why the healing force now? In the heart of every human being is the desire to live with vitality and purpose. It's the fundamental requirement for being whole, healthy, and full of life. And today we're facing a planetary imbalance, a healing crisis where vitality and purpose are met with anxiety, fatigue, and distraction. We've all lost some perspective on the organization of nature and the healing force behind it because we're so externally driven. The healing force is our life force, and it's innate in each one of us. We all have it, and it's given to us at birth, and it's available to all organisms. Ancient and spiritual traditions have identified this force, giving it different names. In China, they call it qi. In Japan, ki. In yoga science, the term prana is used. And this life force is all-pervading. It's available to us, and we need to train our awareness to access it, to recognize it, to be able to focus it, and direct its energy so that we can use it for our own healing and self-transformation. I keep using the word healing, so let's just think about what does healing mean? Well, to heal literally means to make whole, and it's derived from the same root as to be holy, full of life, and which means actually to be whole. The healing force is present within us and around us, and therefore we're alive. Life in the world and the healing force go hand in hand. We know little about the health implications of this force and how to access it for mind, body, and soul. We only come to recognize that something may indeed exist when illness takes hold. We get a crisis. It forces us actually to look at what is twice. If you look at the way crisis is spelled, C-R-I-S-I-S, to look at what is twice. So we can only recognize that we need to do something when the crisis happens or we become ill, and we lose our vitality and our zest for life. You know, many modern experts claim to have discovered something, but in fact, very little is known about the science behind our innate ability to heal or our healing force. These impressive technological and scientific discoveries are indeed an accomplishment of humankind, but they can't hold a candle to the knowledge of understanding the underlying healing forces that bring ourselves and the planet into a sustainable balance. And now more than ever, because we're in such, I believe, an imbalance in a crisis, we can make this happen. We can start to identify and start to really explore this healing force. Because I do indeed believe that we have the innate power to heal ourselves and the planet. But we need to take the responsibility of our own healing one by one, and then share this knowledge with our fellow travelers. Let's shift now to how we can use the healing force to turn things around. But to do this, let's take a look at the yoga science paradigm. According to yoga science, our body and mind are one. The body is the physical outward expression of a much subtler energy field of mind, which is held together by the deeper force called the healing force. It's important to understand deeper dimensions of ourselves and the concept of that what appears as physical manifestation, in other words, our body, and how that's driven by the subtle dimensions of the healing force. You know, we look at the body and we just address the body, but very few have really done the scientific inner studies to really look at the subtle dimensions. And that's what we're talking about today. So it's only when we look at these subtle dimensions that are within ourselves that we understand the dynamics of the healing force and its fullness. So when we know its fullness and we know the dynamics, we can actually take our life and even our work in the world to the next level. It's important to remember that we all want to be happy, healthy, and full of life for that matter. Because the three components that I've just mentioned give us the joy, enabling us to live with freedom and fulfillment. The healing force provides the nourishment of what both our body and mind need to blossom and live with full potential. Dynamics of the healing force can be understood when we know who we are and what makes our vital energy flow. The healing force, which is our vital energy flow, impacts our mind-body complex, and this really needs to be understood. In other words, knowing how our body and mind are integrated and operate as one is essential. It is the basis that the yoga of mind, medicine, and healing can be understood. Yoga is the connection. But let's first define yoga. It comes from the root yug, which means to join or yoke, to concentrate one's attention. And this is why focus, we always emphasize focus in all our meditation trainings, why focus is so imperative to healing. Because when we focus, we actually concentrate our energy, which creates a powerful force. And when we direct this powerful force towards our own healing, it becomes the healing force. And once we master this, we then can direct it towards helping heal the planet. So the yoga of mind, medicine, and healing reminds us that when we train our mind through meditation and its practice, and utilize diet, nutrition, and herbs skillfully as our medicine, we're able to ignite the healing force within. It's nothing brand new, it's ancient. Yoga is a science, and yoga science gives us the framework and the technology and practices to work with the mind, offering the prescription to reclaim our health and vitality, and ultimately access the healing force. Having the privilege of being introduced to this powerful ancient science early in life, I look at healing from all dimensions. I can recall as a child, I would bring home injured and sick animals wanting to restore their health. Not really understanding death at that point because it was before the age of 5. Witnessing a childhood friend later on who was bound to a wheelchair forever. It just made such a deep impression on me and brought forward a fear that was deep inside of me of what if this happens to me? Again, our deepest fear is what's going to happen to me? A fear that I've come to realize is in the depth of all human beings, and even animals for that matter. Nothing wants to die. We grasp and cling throughout our whole life to many things in search for the magic solutions to prevent disease and aging for that matter. I mean, how many anti-aging prescriptions are there when there's no such thing as anti-aging? We're all going to age. How we age is determined by many factors. But when we deeply know that aging and death are inevitable, we have to come to realize what can we do to live this life journey with the peace and harmony and the vitality needed. I don't want to be pessimistic here because I really don't look at the negative in things, and I'm really an opportunist who wants to understand and know the why. What is the dynamic of health in comparison to the dynamic of disease? It's a simple question. What is it? And that's what I'd really like to explore, speak about it. We're starting here in this first episode, but really continue with this as the main theme of what this is all about. As a scientist and yoga practitioner for more than 40 years, I continually have contemplated the why and how things work by not only conducting benchtop research, which I did for many, many years. I found that pretty useless. But my own research in the laboratory of what was right inside of me. You see, you already have the knowledge deep inside yourself. Your healing force is there. You just need to learn how to tap in and use it. Hence, utilizing the knowledge gained from yoga of mind, medicine, and healing, we can learn, experience, and master our own healing force. Each person is an individual with a biochemistry that's directed by their healing force. And the healing force can be awakened and utilized at any time. I'm not saying that if you've neglected your health for 40 years, you will have the same experience as someone who's feeling under the weather for only a year. My point is that we're all individuals with a mind, body, and soul that serves us throughout life. We're the charioteer, operating the body, mind, and senses to ride down the path of freedom and prosperity. The best experiments that anyone can do involve self-inquiry and self-realization. It might sound fluffy from a scientist like myself, but I can tell you that there are no laboratory instruments to test the results or even record what takes place within the subtle realms of our life and our being. What scale would they use? Over the last 4 decades, I've been conducting inner research using diet, nutrition, and meditation to discover the healing force. What makes us thrive, think clearly, feel good about life, eliminate anxiety and depression, overcome fear and self-doubt. Earlier in my life, I climbed to the highest peaks. I went to the Himalayas to explore my fears and self-doubt. And during the process, I gained experience that gave me a glimpse of the amazing potential of the summit that's within my own soul, that amazing potential of my own self, my own human body, of being a human being. I now recognize how privileged it is that we have a human body. I also realize that we climb to those peaks within our own abode, our own summit of our own soul on a daily basis. My exploration and inquiry about this led me to record the habits that create the recipe for awakening and using the healing force to provide the vitality and energy that we need to take life and work to the next level. And I'm here to share this with all of you. What can we do personally to create the change needed for our own health and vitality, our own healing? We can start by remaining calm and get our healing force back online. In my most recent book, Feeling Good Matters, The Yoga of Mind, Medicine, Healing, I mentioned that we need to remain calm. And I use calm as a metaphor for consciously aware, living in the moment. Awareness is the key. Many people say, what is awareness? Awareness can't really be defined by the mind. It's beyond the mind. The mind wants to define it so desperately, like it does everything else it wants to think, but it really can't be defined. But what we can define is living in the present moment. There's much said about this. However, we need a systematic, practical approach to reach the peak. And this is where the yoga of mind, medicine, and healing comes into play. As I mentioned earlier, yoga science teaches that the mind and body are one. So we must start by addressing how we feed our mind-body complex with good food, with thought, and nourishment. You know, with 98% of the atoms in our body being replaced every year and our stomach linings being renewed every 5 days, and that the DNA level of every atom changes every 6 weeks, we don't need to hold on to sickness and disease. If all the cell physiology is continually changing from moment to moment, doesn't that make sense? Therefore, I suggest to everyone interested in health, happiness, and vitality to train the mind to heal the body and to nourish the body to sustain vitality. It's not one or the other. Again, they're one and the same, just in different levels. One's more subtle than the other. Remember, the mind and body are one, and whatever goes on in the mind manifests in the body, and whatever goes on in the body impacts the mind. Dynamics can be understood when we know what makes our mind-body matrix function and stay alive, what makes our body and mind function in balance, and what takes us out of balance. We could skim the surface and tell people what to do, but we must provide the systematic, practical, daily habits that will make this come to be. It's not a secret. There is no secret. It's all within yourself. This needs to be understood. The mind and body are one. What impacts the mind impacts the body. It is on this basis that yogis have discovered many techniques utilizing diet, nutrition, and meditation, and how to use these tools to actively master the healing force to enhance our quality of being and our quality of life. So let's keep in mind, the forces that hold together the universe are numerous. We can use our physical body to learn and know these. Our body is our feedback. And I mentioned in the book, again, Feeling Good Matters, that use your body as feedback. Your body will tell you. It's been designed by these forces and can therefore guide you to the source of the healing force itself. So the first thing that we can do is to remain calm. Questions have come in and have asked me, even though I'm ill, can I still heal my body? And I always say to people, it depends how long. Anyone can heal. However, it's how long have we been holding and identifying with this disease process? It's not a simple solution in many ways, and in many ways it is. We must take a holistic, if you will, a holistic approach. We must identify, utilize, and talk about the healing force, but we must understand it from both the subtle realm of the mind itself and the medicine, as I say, the diet, nutrition, lifestyle habits, herbs. What do we use? What are we feeding our organism to promote this transformation of healing? It's only the practitioner who understands the holistic paradigm from this deeper level, not just taking supplements, but really from the deeper level of the organism itself, can we make the change and be the healing force of positive change. That brings us to the end of this episode. Contact us at susantaylor.org if you have any questions, comments, or feedback. And thank you for listening. The Susan Taylor podcast comes out every week. Again, questions, comments, something you might want to hear, contact us at susantaylor.org. Until next time, remain calm.